And Wolf claims he conclusively asserts that Miss Porter was murdered. And in the documentary, you hear Albie Shore saying, "Do I have to say allegedly?" when he's talking about Kim Porter's death and the allegations that Diddy's somehow responsible.
Word on the street is Diddy didn't just lose his cool when the judge handed him a potential life sentence. He completely collapsed, and some say it wasn't just because of the charges he's facing today. Whispers have resurfaced about the mysterious death of Kim Porter, the woman who wasn't just a model and actress, but the mother of 3 of his children and a long-standing presence in his life. In 2018, Kim was found dead in her Los Angeles home, and the official cause was ruled as lobar pneumonia, a serious lung infection. But from the moment her death hit the headlines, something about it didn't sit right with those closest to her.
She was saying that she wanted to get her phone, her bag, she wanted to leave. But Combs told her, "You're not going to leave." The second witness today was an escort testifying that he participated at a freak-off at the Gramercy Park Hotel.
Too many details didn't add up. Why was her laptop missing? Why were all her phones suddenly gone? And why did the coroner allegedly remove her body before the detectives even got to the scene? According to Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, there were red flags everywhere, from the way her death was handled to the fact that no one seemed to push for a proper investigation. It wasn't just the missing electronics that raised eyebrows. Some even claimed, though unverified, that her gold casket had been ordered 2 months before she passed away. That alone was enough to send conspiracy theories spiraling across the internet. But here's the twist that pulled everyone back in. If Kim Porter's death was truly natural, why does it now appear as a haunting prelude to the chaos Diddy is currently drowning in? And why are so many people saying her name again, louder than ever, now that Diddy is finally facing a courtroom reckoning? One thing's clear, Kim's death wasn't just a tragedy. For some, it's the unsolved mystery that could be the missing link in one of the most disturbing stories in modern celebrity history. But that's just the beginning, because what her former bodyguard revealed next shook everything.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man.
If Kim Porter's death raised questions, Gene Deal's testimony lit a fire under them. This wasn't just some bitter ex-employee airing dirty laundry. Gene was Diddy's personal bodyguard for years, and what he claims to have seen and heard around Kim's death is nothing short of chilling. In a bombshell interview, Deal stated flat out Kim's death wasn't even investigated. Let that sink in. No proper forensic analysis, no scene reconstruction, no questions asked. He says when detectives arrived, Kim's body had already been removed by the coroner, who allegedly declared no foul play on the spot.
Did he ever make $1 million deposit from anybody in the record business? Puff was friends with Jimmy Hinchman.
Without even seeing the bedroom where she died, Deal couldn't believe it, and neither could anyone who knew how thorough death investigations are supposed to be, especially when someone of Kim's status passes so suddenly. Even more bizarre, Deal claims Kim's electronics, her laptop and phones, were gone. He emphasized that most people sleep with their phones within arm's reach, especially a mother and businesswoman like Kim. So where were they? Why were they missing? To make things worse, rumors began surfacing online that a golden casket had been pre-ordered months in advance.
Sean P. Diddy Combs' family arrived for day 1 of his trafficking trial.
How is your father feeling today?
They walked into the federal courthouse in Manhattan, hand in hand, in a gesture of solidarity.
Deal admits he doesn't buy every conspiracy theory, but he couldn't deny that some of the details were just too strange. He also pointed to reports and official documents saying Kim received a 1-hour massage the day she died, despite allegedly having full-blown pneumonia. Who gets a massage when they're on the brink of death from a respiratory infection? The whole thing, he said, stinks of something being covered up, and that's when Deal dropped the line that caught everyone off guard. If what I read is true, this case needs to be reopened, and if that happens, Diddy's legal nightmare might only be beginning.
This is going to be such a massive trial, like maybe the biggest Hollywood trial. God knows which way it's going to go. Is it gonna go on for weeks? And
Oh, for sure, weeks.
What Gene Deal revealed about Kim Porter's death wasn't just a shocking standalone claim. It tapped into a disturbing pattern that stretches across decades of Diddy's relationships with women. Long before the courtroom, long before the headlines, there were signs that something was seriously off. Take Kim Porter, for example. In a 2003 Essence interview, she described Diddy's behavior as intrusive, saying he would call her 50 to 60 times a day during their breakup. "My life was not my own," she admitted. "That's not love. That's obsession disguised as affection." Then there's Cassie Ventura, who met Diddy when she was just 19.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors."
Over the years, her public silence spoke volumes, and when she finally broke it in court, it painted a chilling portrait, a relationship built on control, manipulation, and fear. Former associates like rapper Mark Curry backed this up, saying every relationship he had that I witnessed was toxic. Even Diddy's own bodyguards and collaborators described him as someone who needed control, down to how his partners dressed, wore their hair, and even how they moved in public. There's a common thread across these accounts: surveillance, isolation, and domination.
Now, as far as jury selection goes, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that both sides expect to have all of this done in the matter of 3 days. Now, given just how high profile this trial is, I was kind of stunned that they seem very confident that they will be able to seat a jury in that amount of time.
Cameras allegedly placed in every room, phones checked without consent, constant emotional leverage, and it didn't stop at girlfriends. Several women who worked for Diddy or interacted with him through industry events reported similar controlling tendencies, often paired with intimidation and subtle threats. While the public saw the polished image of a music mogul with charisma and confidence, behind closed doors, multiple women say they saw a very different man. And if these claims are true, then Kim Porter wasn't just a victim of pneumonia. She might have been another chapter in a long, hidden story of power and possession. But that's not even the darkest part, because what came next would blow this case wide open. Once the accusations started coming in, they didn't trickle, they surged like a dam breaking. As of April 2025, Diddy is facing at least 63 civil lawsuits tied to abuse, trafficking, coercion, and even incidents involving minors. These aren't isolated events. They span over 3 decades, from the early 1990s to 2024, and come from a wide range of accusers. Former artists, employees, girlfriends, strangers at industry events, even people from his own reality shows. The disturbing part, their stories all sound eerily similar: drugging, surveillance, threats, violence, manipulation. Victims describe the same power plays over and over. Diddy allegedly using his fame and money to dominate and silence, dangling careers like bait and crushing anyone who pushed back. In one case, producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones claimed Diddy solicited minors and flashed firearms while organizing illegal acts involving celebrities. Another woman, Joy Dickerson, says she was drugged and violated in 1991 when she was just a college student. And then there's the woman who said Diddy and his bodyguard tied her up and attacked her in 2001. Some of these lawsuits were filed quietly, others in public blasts, but together they form a terrifying mosaic of consistent abuse. And it's that consistency that has prosecutors convinced this wasn't just a man with anger issues. This was a system, a long-running, carefully constructed machine of control and exploitation. One that ran alongside his Bad Boy Records empire, hiding in plain sight. But while the lawsuits stack up, there was one witness who wasn't just another name on a file. She took the stand, looked Diddy in the eye, and exposed everything. Her name is Cassie Ventura, and what she said would change everything. When Cassie Ventura walked into that courtroom, it wasn't just another celebrity appearance. It was a reckoning. She wasn't there for headlines, clout, or attention. She came with a mission to finally speak her truth after nearly 11 years of silence, control, and pain. Meeting Diddy at just 19 and signing with Bad Boy Records seemed like a dream, but she says it quickly morphed into a nightmare. The woman who once smiled beside him on red carpets now told the court that she was routinely beaten, manipulated, and coerced into twisted drug-fueled events Diddy allegedly called freak-offs. These weren't wild parties. They were orchestrated encounters that left her humiliated, numb, and dependent on substances just to survive them. Cassie testified about being punched, kicked, and stomped, recalling one incident where Diddy dragged her by the hair across a hotel floor. Her voice broke as she described using ecstasy and mushrooms to dissociate, supplied by Diddy's staff, while being forced to organize and participate in these gatherings. She even detailed being told to invite people with specific physical traits, arrange travel, and ensure no undercover cops could infiltrate. The surveillance footage from a 2016 hotel incident showing Diddy assaulting her was played multiple times for the jury, and still, Cassie didn't flinch. She recounted the horrifying cycle of love and fear, the isolation, the degradation, and the loss of control over her own body and mind. Her words didn't just land, they exploded in that courtroom, sending shockwaves through the media, the jury, and even Diddy's own family, some of whom were seen crying or leaving mid-testimony. But just when everyone thought it couldn't get more graphic or disturbing, Cassie revealed the secret rituals behind the freak-offs, and what she described next had the entire courtroom in stunned silence. Just when the courtroom thought it had heard the darkest corners of Cassie's truth, a new voice entered. The male escort whose presence was central to many of the alleged freak-offs. What he said shocked everyone, not because he denied what happened, but because his version twisted the narrative into something even more complicated. He testified that Cassie had contacted him each time, not Diddy, and claimed she welcomed him wearing lingerie and sunglasses at the door, calling it a birthday surprise. According to him, Diddy would sit in the corner silently, bandana over his face, pleasuring himself while watching. But then came the contradiction. When asked about the most graphic and degrading moments Cassie described, like being urinated on, he said it was Cassie who asked for it. The courtroom gasped. Was this a complete reversal of the story? A defense strategy to discredit her? Or something more insidious, evidence of just how deep her trauma ran, clouding lines between consent and coercion. Despite the contradictions, the escort confirmed one horrifying detail. He'd seen Diddy brutally beat Cassie once after she took too long to return to the bedroom. That moment, he said, changed everything for him. He couldn't even perform afterward. He feared Diddy, feared for Cassie, and knew he had witnessed something that would haunt him. So while his testimony confused the story of the freak-offs, it ultimately reinforced the pattern of violence Cassie described. The courtroom was left reeling. Was this another attempt to distort the truth, or a glimpse into how twisted and blurred the lines had become behind closed doors? But whatever doubts lingered were about to be crushed, because next came the part no one could spin: the criminal charges, the surveillance footage, and the federal indictment that could put Diddy away for life. Behind the rumors, testimonies, and headlines lies the cold, hard truth. Diddy isn't just battling public opinion anymore. He's facing 5 federal charges that could bury him behind bars for life. On September 16th, 2024, Homeland Security agents arrested him in Manhattan, charging him with racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force or fraud, and transporting individuals for prostitution. The indictment reads like something out of a crime novel, alleging that from 2008 onward, Diddy ran an organized criminal enterprise that used violence, intimidation, drugs, and fear to control women and employees alike. But this wasn't just a theoretical charge. The prosecution came locked and loaded with evidence: video footage, text messages, testimonies, and even electronic devices seized from his homes in Miami, Louisiana, and NYC during coordinated federal raids on March 25th, 2024. In court, the jury heard opening statements that painted Diddy as a man living a double life, a global mogul in public, but a violent manipulator behind closed doors. Prosecutors even introduced a new indictment claiming he forced staff to work under threat of punishment, adding forced labor to the already growing list. Meanwhile, his defense team didn't deny the depravity, they embraced it. They admitted Diddy had done dehumanizing, violent things, even confirming the infamous 2016 hotel video of him attacking Cassie, but argued that it was all domestic misconduct, not criminal enterprise. In their words, Diddy might be guilty of being a terrible partner, but not a trafficker. It's a bizarre legal play. Yes, he's a monster, but not that kind of monster. But in the face of surveillance footage, sworn witness testimony, and more than 63 lawsuits, the line between immoral and criminal is quickly disintegrating. And now, another name has resurfaced, one that was almost forgotten in the flood of allegations: Kim Porter, because her story might not be over yet. Amid all the disturbing claims, chilling testimonies, and damning charges, one name continues to echo through every corner of this case: Kim Porter. Though her death was officially ruled as pneumonia back in 2018, the questions around it refuse to fade, especially now. Especially with Diddy under fire like never before. Gene Deal wasn't the only one calling foul. Former collaborators and insiders have long whispered that Kim's relationship with Diddy was far more volatile than the public ever saw. Mark Curry, a former bad boy rapper, remembered how Kim used to go through a lot, describing their bond as toxic and stormy. Roger Bonds, another ex-bodyguard, claimed he witnessed Diddy get physical with Kim, recalling specific moments where things crossed the line. One especially violent altercation allegedly occurred in 2000 at L.A. Reid's wedding, where Diddy reportedly smashed a chair over the head of Kim's then-boyfriend, leaving him bleeding and needing stitches. These aren't just rumors, they're red flags. Kim herself once described Diddy's obsessive control, saying he would call her 50 to 60 times a day, even when they were broken up. She said she had to physically pack up everything, twins and all, just to get away from him. And yet, her final message to Diddy, just weeks before her death, was heartbreakingly warm. "Thank you for giving me the best gifts of life, our children." But that only adds to the confusion. Was it closure? A peace offering? Or the calm before a storm she never saw coming? The circumstances of her death, missing electronics, that suspiciously timed massage, and an alleged gold casket ordered in advance still haunt those who knew her. And with Diddy now facing life behind bars for a different set of crimes, people are starting to ask, was Kim Porter just another victim? And if so, how many others have suffered in silence? What happens if her case is ever reopened? It wasn't that long ago that Diddy stood as a symbol of success, a self-made billionaire, a media mogul, a cultural icon. He had the parties, the empire, the influence, even a key to New York City and an honorary doctorate from Howard University. But now, that key has been revoked, the doctorate stripped. His name no longer commands awe. It invites whispers, disgust, and disbelief. The fall wasn't gradual, it was brutal. After the federal indictment, every award, honor, and brand partnership tied to Diddy started to vanish like smoke. And while he once walked into courtrooms like a king still clinging to his crown, it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Eyewitnesses describe him looking thinner, grayer, visibly shaken, his hands trembling as Cassie took the stand. This was no longer the man who dominated stages and boardrooms. This was someone cornered, exposed, and terrified. Even his family, who showed up in a united front at the courthouse, couldn't hide their pain. During graphic testimony from Daniel Phillip, 3 of Diddy's children reportedly walked out in distress. His mother, Janice Combs, once proudly watching her son rise to the top, now sat quietly in court, witnessing his empire collapse. And the worst part, the cameras are still rolling. Every new allegation, every cross-examination, every courtroom reaction is being documented, dissected, and remembered. Diddy's legacy, once defined by platinum records and cultural milestones, is now drowning under the weight of disturbing claims, traumatized victims, and the question nobody wants to ask but everyone is thinking: was it all built on control and silence? Because when power crumbles like this, it doesn't just fall, it detonates. But even after this total implosion, the biggest question still remains: what happens next? So now we've seen it all: the court cases, the testimonies, the patterns, and the chilling accusations that stretch back over 3 decades. We've heard from bodyguards, escorts, ex-girlfriends, even former friends of the family. We've seen footage. We've read legal documents. We've watched a man once praised as a hip-hop visionary fall from untouchable icon to federal defendant. And yet, one question still haunts this entire story: what really happened to Kim Porter? Officially, it was pneumonia, but if that's the case, why are there so many loose ends, so many missing pieces, so many people who knew her, really knew her, saying they don't believe it? Why were her electronics gone? Why was there no investigation? Why did Gene Deal, the man who stood beside Diddy for years, say flat out that the death scene didn't make sense? And now that we've seen the playbook, control, intimidation, emotional and physical domination, it makes you wonder, was Kim the first sign of what was really happening behind closed doors, or just one of many? The truth might never come from a courtroom. It may not even come from a confession. But make no mistake, this trial is just the surface. Beneath it lies a network of pain, silence, and power that's only beginning to unravel. And with over 100 alleged victims connected to this case, it's not just about Diddy anymore. ignore. It's about how many voices had to be ignored, how many lines had to be crossed, and how long this went on before someone finally said enough. So now it's your turn to ask, what if Kim Porter's death wasn't just a tragedy, but a warning we all missed?